Welcome back to On Deck Circle Podcast. I am your nervous for the Super Bowl host, Nick Z, over here with my very good friend named Jason. Jason, how the heck are you today?
Good. I wish I had those anxious Super Bowl thoughts. I'm sure you're in the same book. I saw somebody the other day posted about Boston and how spoiled you guys are.
Mm-hmm.
Dating back to I want to say 04, right? That's when the Red Sox first one was 04.
Yep.
You guys have had a championship in almost every single season. It's been I think 2 or 3 years where you haven't had a championship in your town.
No, yeah, it's pretty crazy. I think
It's
I've
pretty
been
disgusting, actually.
like 15 parades.
Yeah,
it's
disgusting.
Yeah. Well, Jason, we are going to get right down to business. But before we get down to business, we are going to start with the cold open question of the week. Another passion I have is basketball. It is currently the trade deadline season for basketball. The deadline is Thursday. Our teams actually kind of made a trade. It was very much a fantasy baseball trade of I have a pitcher that's okay. You have a batter that's okay. I need pitching. You need batting. And then here we go with the Anthony Simons and Vooch deal. I want you to tell me, what is your favorite trade deadline for baseball trade that you've been a part of for your Cubs? All right. 3, 2, 1, go. All right, Jason, what do we got?
Honestly, I was trying to think about this. I'm trying to think. There's been not really a ton of big in-season splashes for the Cubs in years past. A lot of the trades have all happened in the offseason. So I'm not gonna lie. I don't really. My initial thought was Nomar, but I don't think that was an in-season trade. Was it?
Okay. Mine was the Nomar trade. It was July 31st, 2004. That was the first. So I was what? I was 11. That's the first trade where my dad had to not explain it's a business type thing, but it was I was so upset because Nomar was getting traded because Nomar was the guy in Little League, every 5, I'm doing the whole wrist gimmick. So yes, the Nomar trade was indeed mine, mostly just because it was just very impactful. And what I remember distinctly is Orlando Cabrera, the shortstop they got in return. They also got Doug Mankiewicz, hit a home run his first at bat as a Red Sox player, and I was like, "Fuck Nomar." Yes, so mine is that deal, and of course, we all know the Red Sox did indeed win their first World Series in 86 years after that deal. So yeah, that's my pick.
Yeah,
and it can also be yours because it's both of our teams.
Yeah, I confirmed it was in season. But yeah, that's one of the big ones that jumps out of my head. Again, Cubs don't make a lot of. I mean, they trade, right? They've made trades in the in-season, but there's never been that giant splash. They acquire people. They're definitely more of a. Even when Theo was around, I mean, you could questionably say that Chapman deal just because they won the World Series that year, but that was probably one of the bigger in-season splashes they've made in a while. So
that makes sense.
We'll go with the Nomar because we both
great
tails both of our teams.
Yeah.
All right, Nick. Well, today we are continuing our series of top 5 prospects around the diamond. We've done first base, middle infielders, which leads us now to the last spot in the infield. That's the corner infielder, the hot corner, third base. We're going to kind of do the same thing we've been doing the last few weeks, and we're going to give us our top 5. We're going to go through, and then we're going to talk about someone that we think is going to break out as a third base prospect, as well as someone that you probably should be fading or staying away from at the third base position. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it here. Pull up our little graphic that you've so kindly created here for the last.
This one looks clean. You can tell that this is my third one. If anybody sees a mistake, please let me know in the comments. But other than that, yeah, without further ado, let's have a couple of the same ones, so we will be touching on some of the same. I'm going to start off here with Chicago White Sox. Dude, I feel like we could be talking about a White Sox prospect every single week. If they're like 60% on these guys, they're going to be a great team very soon. But we're going to start with Caleb Bonemer. I almost wrote Boner. That's all I'm going to say. But hey, it's a kid show. So he's young. He's probably the highest ceiling on this sheet, because Jason, we did talk about it a little bit before the show. The third base prospects are not as fun as they used to be. I think you could realistically make an argument other than my number 5, and make probably anybody in the top 3 here could be number 1.
Yep.
And there's no coincidence that our top 3s are just all mixed up. So yeah, he's the guy that I think has the highest upside here. What did he do? So last year he hit 12 homers, stole 29 bases. Stolen bases for a third baseman in fantasy is kind of a found gold, I guess you could say. Not the biggest pop out of the bat, but he's going to get those extra base hits. He's going to hit you some homers. I think we have like a 25 homer ceiling, which again, fine, because not everyone could be Junior Caminero and just hit 40 bombs. Has elite OBP. He's drawn a bunch of walks in the minors. 25 upside, I'd say. He's still 19, 20 years old, so still a lot of room to grow. I don't think we'll see him this year, especially when, I don't know, like I did say the White Sox might be good, but they're not going to be like, this year isn't the year. This could be the year before the year, if that makes any sense. We saw them add the guy from Japan. So yeah, I'm personally excited about this guy, but again, it's not great when it comes to this third base crop. There's really nothing that's like crazy to me. I love your number 1. And again, I kind of toyed with that, like moving it around. But you know what? Do you have anything else to add about Boner?
Just a couple quick things. It's only been one full season so far, and they kind of nailed that and had a really nice breakout in 2025. The on-base percentage you alluded to. He had a 400 OBP last year, 96 games. He's actually the Carolina League MVP. He's got a really good strike zone awareness. Got a really nice walk rate that's leading to that on-base percentage. Basically a 16% walk rate. Doesn't chase the ball a lot. Got a really disciplined hitting and approach at the plate. Made a really nice WRC plus last year as well. As only a 19-year-old, so I think we could definitely see. You kind of alluded it to, the White Sox may or may not. I don't want to say they may, because that organization is a little bit of a dumpster fire, but we could be seeing a competitive White Sox team here very shortly. And some of these prospects that we've been talking about in some of these episodes could be a lot of the reasons why the White Sox are starting to kind of make a competitive team here in the next year or two.
For sure.
But I definitely like Bonemer. I toyed with him, putting him at 1. Ultimately went with my guy, which is Andrew Fischer of the Milwaukee Brewers. Their first round pick in last year's draft, 20th overall. Really strong college career coming out of the draft. He actually played for 3 different college teams in all 3 of his years. But last year, ultimately had a really good college career. All 3 years in college, his career slash line was 307, 438, 672 with an 1109 OPS. Back-to-back 20-plus home run seasons in college, which they play 60, 70 games, depending on the postseason that they get into. But then obviously after getting drafted, had a really good good season, but a small sample size. Only had 19 games after being drafted for high A. But still, he batted 311, 402 on base, and a 446 slugging, which is good enough for an OPS of 848. Only one home run, but he did steal 8 bases. Really good offensive rates. 8 steals, which is kind of surprising. I didn't really see much of him. Is not much of a steal guy, which again, it's low minor leagues number. So it's kind of hard to bank in. Everyone pretty much steals in the low minors. But he's got above average hit tool. The power is really nice right now. It's going to continue to even advance more, and I think the power is his real calling card here. I think we could eventually get him into 25, 35 home runs at a peak. Very strong advanced hitter for his age. Again, the power is the real standout here for Fischer for me.
Yeah, he's the most third base prospect on this list. I'd say that I could also I don't know how he is on defense, but he could also move over to first base, especially because you also have another Brewers prospect on your list. But yeah, even just coming in, he played how many games? He got 74 at-bats, hit the ball. He hit 311, OBP over 400. I think we see him start in Double-A. And honestly, we could see him by the summer, depending on where the Brewers are at. He's a great player. Don't get me wrong. But he's the most third base prospect that we have on this list for sure.
Yeah, I feel like similar to the first baseman, third baseman, first and third baseman, we probably should have done a corner infield position.
Oh, we 1,000% should have.
It would have been harder, I think, to kind of similar to what the middle infield was. It was really hard to limit it to 5 with the shortstops and the second baseman. It definitely would have been hard, I think, with the first and third as the corner infielders too. So I guess it's kind of good that we split it up. But anyways, either one of those first and third guys can be definitely interchangeable. And I could definitely see Fischer getting moved over to first as he advances through the minor league system there. So my second guy, we just talked about him, is Bonemer. So we can go into your second guy, which is my third guy.
Yeah, you would think that we planned all of this, but no. I create my list and then I say, Jason, send your list, and then I make a beautiful graphic. But yes, crazy that it kind of flowed this way. So my number 2 is Mr. Jacob Reimer. He was kind of a buzzy name going in and throughout last season for the Mets. He hits the ball. All of these guys have not all of mine. 4 out of the 5 of mine really have a great contact tool, and that seems to be the prospects that we're really covering currently. I don't know if it's just the way the change in development, but it seems that we're teaching guys to hit first before power, and I guess you got to hit the ball before you hit over the fence. But yeah, Reimer, the same type of thing. I don't know if we're gonna get that Fischer power when it comes to Reimer. I don't see him getting 30 bombs. I do see him hitting over 275, maybe close to that 300 mark with 20 homers, and that's fine. He's above average when it comes to drawing walks. His discipline is kind of his calling card, I think, just like the professional hitter type. Unsure about an ETA here, but the Mets are an interesting team because I also could see him being moved just for an upgrade right now, and that could honestly help his dynasty stock. Just because I don't know what the Mets could go out and pay. I'm not going to say Alex Bregman because he's not available, but go pay next year's Alex Bregman to go play third base for the next 5 years. So yeah, where are you at with Mr. Jacob Reimer? You are on mute, Mr. Jason. Better.
There we go. There's another one of the guys. Again, the top 3 was you could interchange them too because I like Reimer a lot. He had a really good year last year. Really broke out. He was a 4th round pick in 2022, so it's not like he was one of these highly touted guys. But really broke out last year. /282, 379, 491 /line. 17 home runs to go with his 15 stolen bases. So really nice combination of power and speed. He had a 157 WRC plus, which is actually one of the highest in all of the Mets systems. Basically, one of the Mets' best offensive producers last year in the whole Mets system. Really good on base percentage, gets a nice walk rate. Even the 50 stolen bases is a good success rate on that. I think this guy's gonna start, not only climbing our ranks, he's gonna start getting a lot of helium as far as third base prospects goes after that breakout of 2025. I'm sure a lot of people have him in their top 5. Yeah, I really like what I see out of Reimer. I think, like I said, he's more of like a power speed guy than he is like one of the ton of power versus a ton of speed. More like a balance. Like probably get to at least definitely get to like 15 seasons at the bigs, and with the way the rules are set up now, 2020 is definitely
it's definitely in play.
Yeah, the stolen base numbers are only going to increase once you get to the majors and you get those rules. So I like what we see out of Reimer. I have him at 3. You have him at 2. We kind of talked about your number 3 guy there with my number 1 being Fischer. So why don't we go talk about your number 4 guy, and then we'll go on from there.
Yeah, I'm gonna say my number 4 is probably my most volatile. Like I'm going to Japan in a few weeks, like 6. I think we might see Tommy White playing in Japan in a few years. Like it's very much that kind of profile here. There was an episode of the On Deck Circle podcast where we had Jeff Ponce on, and I asked him about a college player named Tommy Tanks. And Tommy Tanks is now in the bigs. And by bigs, I mean double AAA. So Tommy White, he's power guy. Probably the highest ceiling on this list when it comes to home runs. He's just not really good at anything else. I'm trying to think of a comp. Think like, not like Mark Grace. He was good. Like a Mark Trumbo. Think Mark Trumbo. Like could hit 30, 40 home, or like a Chris Davis could hit like 30, 40 home runs for a year and a year. Could hit 2 and bat like 180. Doesn't walk nearly enough for what I'd be looking for, but I'm really just betting on the power here. I think, again, like I said, he might not even be playing stateside in a couple of years, but he might also turn into Brent Rooker if he can just like learn how to take a walk. Unsure if you have anything to add on Tommy Tanks, but great nickname.
Yeah, no, not too much to add. I will say though that I think before he goes to play somewhere outside of the United States, that he probably will get traded because he's on the Oakland Athletics, and we know how well. Sorry, I don't know, maybe the Sacramento Athletics, how well they continue to develop players and then ship them off.
Yep.
Although they have held true to a couple guys now, right? Like Nick Kurtz and Jacob Wilson.
Yep.
They've held on to a couple guys, but that's to be seen with Tommy White still. He was a top 50 pick just a year and a half ago, so I think they'll definitely let him develop here a little bit. Still just 22. Yeah, I think the power's there, and I'd like to see the power numbers continue to develop as the seasons go on. All right, so my number 4 is a guy that you don't even have on your list, and you know what's funny is like I didn't have Tommy White, and I struggled to even put him on. I was going to put him on my list, but then I was like, I just couldn't do it. But then I also picked Gavin Fien, who
his team already gave up on him.
Yeah, I was going to say like he was drafted 12th overall just last season by the Rangers, and then they immediately traded him off in the Mackenzie Gore deal sent him off to the Nationals. So, but one of the better prep hitters in last year's draft. Really small sample size, similar to Fischer last year. He only played in 10 games, but even small, he only had 41 at bats. But in those games, not the greatest of outcomes. So I don't know, maybe that was what led Texas to make him expendable. He only slashed 220, 267, 341 with only a 608 OPS, which again, small sample size. We like to penalize the guys that have great outcomes in small sample sizes, so we might as well not penalize guys that had awful numbers in small sample size. But he did show the ability to hit for contact. He did have 4 extra base hits in 10 games, so there is a little bit of hit tool there, which many of the scouts saw him, which has led him to be a top 15 pick in last year's draft. Above average hitter with potential for above average power. as long as he can develop and fill and mature, physically at least. Not a huge runner, so don't expect the Reimer type where it's like 2020. I don't know if you'll get many steals out of him. He was a high school shortstop, but he was drafted as a third baseman by the Rangers. I think that's ultimately where people are gonna, even the Nationals will probably slide him over to third base in his first full year this year. That's still to be seen where they play him. And this will be his first full year in 2025. So I'm interested to see what 2025 holds for Fien, which is why I ultimately put him on my list. I feel like the upside is still there enough to have him as my top 5 third baseman. So that's why I put him in there.
No, yeah, he's in my research for first year player drafts. He was someone that I kind of looked into, but again, there were just it's been a theme. I was so anti bats in this first year player draft, and I was all in on pitchers.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was fine. He was probably one of the top bats in the first year player draft, I'd say. But yeah, just not a player for me, which is why I kept him off of my list.
Yeah. What's kind of funny, our 5s are different, and not only are our 5s different, but my 5 is one of your fades. So we'll go with your guy first, and we'll talk Wilken a little bit more in depth after.
Yeah, Hao-Yu Lee. I'm gonna say highest floor, lowest ceiling by like a lot. Here I'm seeing a utility guy, but again, I love me a utility guy. I think Blaze Alexander won me a league last year just because he kind of got hot towards the end. But yeah, so nothing like kind of a jack of all trades, a master of none here. He's from Taiwan, so that's cool. He's 23, so definitely the oldest guy on this list. Even I think your Avoid made the bigs already, and he's still younger than Lee.
Yeah.
So yeah, he had 14 homers last year, stole 22 bases. Again, those are just like the little things that are gonna win you a daily. I'm also gonna be specific in that this could be annoying. This is specifically for daily for him. I think since I do believe he will be a utility guy, I think he would be a lot more valuable in a daily league than a weekly, because it's tough to just throw those guys in that like sit every 3 days. But I think we see him at some point this season. I don't think he'll ever hit you 25 homers, but like might get you 20. So yeah, just very much a safe play here, especially with White being such a risk. And yeah, so unsure if you have anything on Lee here, but he's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he's got the upside is not really there for him, but he's got a solid floor. Like I said, utility player, utility bench, infielder, floor. He has taken a little bit longer to, develop. Been in the minor leagues now for about 4 years. Just this past year had played in more than 100 games. So the development is not quite really been there. So I think they're going to maybe string him along here a little bit longer, but the speed seems legit. The hit tool seems legit. Doesn't strike out a ton. So, you're getting a little bit of an advanced approach to play with Lee. So I think he's got a nice floor. As like you said, nothing that's going to jump off the page, more like an infielder utility guy. All right, let's do your.
Yeah, you should go next. And then
I'll talk about Wilken as my number 5, and then we'll just jump into our avoid, since we'll just kind of piggyback on. I'll say why you should be in on Wilken. You tell me why I shouldn't be on Wilken.
Perfect. Good.
Right.
And then we'll just gush about Sanchez together.
Exactly. All right. So I've been on Brock Wilken since he was drafted in 2023. He was a huge standout power hitter his time at Wake Forest. Really nice, not just the raw power, but a lot of in-game power too. He's had a little bit of a rough go since being drafted, though. As far as the hit tool goes, the power and the on base is still there. He's got a really nice, strong plate discipline. 387 OBP last year. He did have 18 home runs in only 80 games last year. He missed a lot of time due to injuries, which I think has been some of the knack against Brock Wilken has been his durability. But I mean, the power is legit. 18 home runs in 80 games or 79 games at Double-A last year. At one point, he was leading the Double-A, the league at one point with the home runs. And then, across all 3 seasons in the minor leagues, the OBP has always been there. 358 career OBP in the minors. The power numbers are starting to climb with the 18 last year. And again, the batting averages I think you're going to struggle with, which in this day and age, you can live with it. I mean, look at Kyle Schwarber, right? I mean, there's guys all around the league that are batting 225, hitting 40 bombs, and getting on base at like 370 rate, which this is what Brock Wilken's trending towards. I don't want to comp him to Schwarber because that's insane, but I think you could see the kind of profile that Brock Wilken holds is something similar to that type of player. You're not going to get a ton of high batting average and a lot of great hit tool, but the OPS is there. So if you're looking for high OBP with some good slug, I really like Brock Wilken. This pains me that he's not developing the way I thought he was going to. I took him in a lot of 2023 first-year player drafts. Loved him coming out of Wake Forest, and I really hope that he can stay healthy for a full year in 2026 and really, really supplant himself as one of the top third baseman prospects, which I believe he is. So why don't you tell me why we should be out on Brock Wilken?
Because of your number 1. Yeah, it's just the Brewers, man. You could put Fischer, Wilken, Andrew Vaughn, and Luke Adams, who's a first base prospect, but whatever.
Yeah. I almost included Luke Adams as my avoid, but he's been at least a little bit better.
Have you ever searched Luke Adams on Twitter?
I haven't.
Okay. After the show, do that. Just make sure your kids aren't around.
Okay.
But yeah, it's just the Brewers have too much of a type.
Yeah. 100%.
It really bothers me. So like there's actually nothing really wrong with the player, but I think it's just like that he's 23 again. Like it's just one of those, I'm kind of like, if he hasn't, like that profile needs to be figured out before now is more what I'm thinking. But we'll see. He's fine.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what happens in 2026. I could be completely out on Wilken if we get another like 60 game season of injuries and a 220 batting average. I might be out on Brock Wilken. But until those days happen, I'm really excited to see what happens in 2026 and see what the Brewers do. He could also be moved at any time. Like you said, the Brewers are kind of flushed with corner infield spots or prospects right now. So some of these guys are going to have to get moved. So we'll see what happens in 2026. So Brock Wilken's your avoid. He's not my top 5. And then we'll go to my avoid next, which is going to be Alex Freeland, which we talked about. You kind of hinted at earlier. He's made his debut last year. And I think after, it's hard to judge Freeland when he's on the Dodgers, right? He's on like a freaking superstar all-star team. But I think we might looking at a guy that's a better real-life baseball player than he is a fantasy producer. He did have some decent numbers in the minor leagues last year, but came up to the majors. Again, small sample size. So take it with a grain of salt. But 29 games, he only batted 190, 292 OBP, 310 slug with only a 601 OPS, 2 home runs. He had a 36% strikeout rate, and he's in a lineup that's just full of protection. So like if they were going to attack anybody, you're going to attack and get fastballs against Alex Freeland, and he still couldn't produce in that lineup. Again, 29 games, take it with a grain of salt, but I think ultimately he's more of a utility player, a fourth or fifth bat off the bench, defensive specialist. I don't know if we can actually count on Alex Freeland as a fantasy producer. Therefore, he is going to be my avoid or fade third base prospect.
Yeah, that's kind of a good one. Again, you almost like if Freeland was on the Marlins, we would probably be excited. But also, it's so hard being with the Dodgers because if you mess up, you've got 5 other prospects or just anybody. Like Kyle Tucker could be playing third base. Like, so yeah, I'm with you with that. I think even at his, if everything clicks, I don't know if it's worth what he's worth, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It also wasn't really a highly touted prospect up until like last year or so when he started, is scheduled to make his debut and he kind of had a really nice minor league.
Yeah.
And then also everyone was like, oh, look, Alex Freeland. We could see maybe one of the next prospects coming off the Dodgers that continued to produce, and that just didn't happen. So out on Freeland. It's kind of funny though that again we don't share our lists, and we both picked the same breakout.
Yep.
Which it's not hard to pick a breakout that when he's only 18 years old, but Jesus Sanchez of the Toronto Blue Jays,
Juan Sanchez.
Juan Sanchez has us fluttering, our hearts fluttering. Still has not even come stateside yet,
Nope.
but just a dominant the Dominican Summer League. Huge average, huge on base percentage. Had over 1,000 OPS in only 56 games. At 17, 18 years old. Elite power potential. Can definitely get some believe he can get up into the 25, maybe even 30 plus home runs. Really strong approach to the plate. Hit a 10% walk rate as a teenager in the Dominican League. Really high OBP, which I talked about. So already got a really nice athletic frame, 6'3", strong. It's only it's only going to continue to develop as he gets older. He's basically, I'm surprised, probably isn't getting more love because he's not stateside yet. But if you can get him now basically probably can get him for free and or cheap in your league, I definitely take a flyer on Jesus Sanchez or Juan Sanchez. Sorry, as a breakout.
I'm going to talk about someone we talked about last week when it's Jesus Made, which somebody was kind enough to put in our comments last week how to pronounce his name. Yeah. So I really do appreciate that.
It was Made, right?
Yes. Yeah. So I think this is me just saying it. I don't know if it's true. This could be this season's Jesus Made.
Yeah.
Just everything he did last year was great. 6'3", 180. That dude, he's gonna get to probably 220 by the time he turns 20. And that's as soon as you get him over back here stateside. I don't know where he'll be. This will definitely be a player that I'm looking to see where he's placed. But yeah, he's someone I'm definitely excited about. Probably, honestly, could be highest actual ceiling on our list.
Yeah.
Other than Fischer, maybe. But like in general, someone I'm definitely excited about.
Yeah, no, I agree. I knew before we did this episode, did any research on, top prospects of who would be our top 5. I almost wanted to put Sanchez in my top 5, but I'm like, I can't do that to an 18-year-old that's not even stateside yet. So ultimately I just left him as my breakout, which I think is fitting. He could eventually, I'm sure he'll come stateside this season, at least start in the complex or high A, and he will start turning heads and climbing a lot of these prospect lists for sure. All right, well, that's going to wrap up our third base episode, unless you have anything else to add.
Next week. Oh, yes, Jason, we got a comment asking why we didn't talk about a certain shortstop. Did you happen to see this?
I did not.
Leo DeVries.
Yes.
They were like, what about him?
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm going to say hand up. Missed him.
Yeah.
I think I was too busy trying to fit a second baseman in.
I was about to say that. I didn't miss him. Kind of what we kind of messed up. We should have combined first and third and did a corner infield position, then split up second and short because there's just so many shortstops. And I wanted to get a second baseman in there, so I put in Bazana over DeVries. And yeah, that's on us. He should definitely been in the top 5. I consider him a top 5 shortstop for sure, and probably a top 5 middle infielder. But I wanted to at least give the second baseman some love in that middle infield ranking. So yeah, I think we probably kind of mess this up a little bit. We probably should have split up second base, but I don't know. Second base is kind of like we probably should have done shortstop its own show and just gone like a top 10 because there's so many good shortstop prospects right now. It's the next generational like run of shortstop prospects coming up. They probably should have given them enough time and given them their own show. But hey, what can you do?
We're only human, Jason.
But yeah, next week I think we're on to outfield, which is going to be rough. We may have to go to top 10. I don't know. We'll see.
Or I think we need to do like you do top 5, and then I do 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
That's not a bad idea.
So we don't overlap.
So, because right now, right, like we did our top 5 here, but 3 of them are the same. So we really only talked about 4 guys.
Yes. So I think I'm going to give you the top 5, and then I'll take the back half. And then if you could just get your list over to me, and then I'll work off of that.
Sounds good.
Brilliant, some would say.
All right, Nick. We'll talk to you next week.
Peace.